Hey everyone, Julian here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to process vocals with only Ableton effects. So this is a question I get a little bit, and it's something that I know a lot of people are wondering about because obviously there's a million and one, good vocal processing effects and plugins out there, but you want to get the most out of the Ableton stuff that you can. So today I'm going to be showing you how to do that. So I have this little demo vocal here. This is just something from a sample pack that I put in, and I put some processing on it. You can hear what I've got right now.
Giving up on love, we're giving up on love, on love, we're...
So, as you can hear, there's a bit of reverb, a bit of delay, and as you may not be able to hear as easily, there's a little bit of compression and a little bit of EQ as well on there. And I want to talk about those to start off with. So I'm going to turn all these effects off, and I'm going to show you sort of what I did from the ground up. So here's the dry vocal.
Giving up on love, we're giving up on love, on love.
So, pretty clean sounding to begin with, I know, but there were still some things that I needed to go through and clean up. And this is something I do want to talk about. Like they say it's mostly about what you have going into the processing and not so much about the processing. Like, if that makes any sense. Like, I say this quite frequently. Like, you should have your sound like 90% of the way there before processing, and then just use the processing to just bring out things that you want, or add things that you obviously wouldn't get in the original recording, like reverb and delay. But yeah, you really don't want to be like processing it to add things, you want to be processing it to just accentuate the things that you like about it. So this is a good example of that because it already sounds pretty clean. It already sounds honestly great. But there were just a few extra things that I wanted to add on top of this. So the first thing I did here was this EQ. And as you can see, there's kind of like 4 main little cuts here. There's this one, and then there's these 3 over here. So what this one is doing is I will show you, if you listen to this vocal dry,
Giving up on love.
there was a little bit of kind of boominess around like this area of the frequency spectrum. Like, yeah, maybe around like 300 to 400 hertz. So I just cut that out a little bit. You can see I went like minus 4.5 dB, I guess. The real thing here is I just try not to go below minus 6 for small cuts like this. Obviously these I did, but that's a different story, which I'll explain in a second. But yeah, so with these kind of things, you really just want to be doing subtractive EQ, and this is a good example of that. I just need to clean up that area a little bit, and I think it really helps. Here is with it.
Giving up on
and then without again.
On love, we're giving up on.
So you can hear it just kind of smoothens it out, and honestly in a way that a lot of people would use a multiband compressor to do, like sort of flattening out the frequency spectrum or the frequency range. I just kind of did it with this EQ here. It works the same way. And then there's these 3 little bands over here, and so what I have with those, I'll show you here. If I turn this headphone icon, if you don't know, you can turn on the headphone icon on Ableton's EQ8, and when you do that, any point that you like click on while it's playing, it'll just play you what's going on in that range. So with these, I'll show you. Essentially, I made these cuts to just cut out some kind of like nasty high end that was going on with like a lot of the breaths and stuff. So I'll show you. Here's like the first one.
Giving up on love.
So you can hear that kind of like whistly frequency there, and it's not that extreme with this. With some vocals, it can be a lot worse, but with this, it's it was minor cuts that I had to make. There's also this one.
Giving up on love.
You can hear that whistly frequency there. And then there's also this one. Whoops. This one.
Giving up on love.
So I just like to cut those out and just kind of clean it up. And it makes it so the vocals are just really smooth. And they don't have anything kind of like sharp or rough around the edges. They're just, like I said, just very smooth and clean and simple this way. So the next thing I have on here is a compressor, which isn't really doing a whole lot. The ratio is somewhat low at 2:29 to 1. But what it is doing is it's just sort of flattening out the dynamic range a little bit. There were some parts in here that sounded kind of peaky to me, and when you look at the waveform, it's hard to tell, but like that and like some of the stuff over here, like that, just were a little bit sharp, so I wanted to clean that up and sort of help flatten it out with a compressor. So you can see,
Giving up on
again, it's not doing everything. It's just doing the stuff that's basically above this threshold line is getting compressed.
Giving up on
So you can see again, it's just really those top peak frequencies. And I have a really short attack, so it kind of hits right away. And then a little bit of a longer release, just enough so that it isn't like really fast, but it isn't really short either, if that makes any sense.
giving up on love.
And yeah, it just helps to sort of keep it under control. So next thing I have here is a ping pong delay, pretty simple.
Giving up on love.
This is just giving us like a nice eighth note delay. And this is an important thing with processing vocals. I noticed like delay in some cases it can be almost more important than reverb for like giving it space and really helping to fill it out, because these delays
Giving up on
ringing out, they just kind of give it a little bit of something that you can't really get from reverb, because reverb is more of like the whole thing just sort of like ringing out, whereas the ping pong delay is like specific words, and that gives like a nice rhythmic kind of feel to the vocals. And the key to doing delay on vocals that I've found is you got to use sort of a high feedback and a low dry wet. So as you know, the feedback is basically how many delays there are going to be. So like how many times it's going to go like dun 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 before it trails off. And then the dry wet is obviously how much of the dry signal, how much of the wet signal is playing. And yeah, so what this gives you is it gives you like that big delay that you get from having a high feedback, but because the dry wet is so low, it's not going to overtake the whole thing, and the sound still comes through with a little bit of delay on top. After that, I also have this reverb,
giving up on love.
which sounds pretty solid. That's just to give it some ambience and some space at the end of the chain. And yeah, it's just set like this. I turned off all the input processing, the early reflections, and the diffusion network, as well as the chorus, and I just kind of played around with the reflect and the diffuse, and a few of these other settings here, just to sort of make it sound the way I wanted it to.
Giving up on
And just give it some ambience. And really, the main thing I want to take away from this video here is signal, sort of like what order your signal change should be. So, for example, I started with the EQ because I wanted to fix that right away before I did any of this other stuff, and I didn't want the EQ to be like cutting out frequencies in this reverb or delay that would have been otherwise present that you would have wanted. Then I put the compressor on, as opposed to putting the compressor after the delay or reverb. Obviously, that'll mess those up. Then I have the delay going into the reverb. So you don't ever want delayed reverb. You want reverb delay, if that makes any sense. So yeah, that's gonna be it for today, guys. Make sure to let me know what you think of this video in the comments, and make sure to like this video and subscribe. Maybe even share the video if it really helped you out. And I'll see you guys again tomorrow with another tutorial.